welcome to my channel. I'm the City Witch. So today's video is on the subject of ritually cleansing your home and your environment for your magical year ahead. Now, as witches, we all have various routines that we like to incorporate into our craft, and this is one of mine. Now, mine takes an entire month to do, and I always do it in March. And I know some of you are probably going to panic and think, oh my god, this routine's a month long, but trust me guys, it's worth it. And sometimes it doesn't take the full month, sometimes it's a bit quicker. It kind of depends on what I've experienced throughout the month, to which routines I incorporate and which things that I want to use. And I just want to talk to you about all the various steps that I do in my routine, why I do them and how I do them, in order to give you some ideas, tips and tricks that you might want to incorporate in your own magical practice. So as I say, I do this for an entire month, and March is that month for me. The reason I don't do it in February in Lupercalia, which is usually February is kind of your cleansing month, the reason for that is because my birthday falls in February and I don't particularly want to be cleansing and going through all my drawers and my cupboards in my home over my birthday. That's not something that's very appealing to me, so I always do it in March. But feel free to pick any month of the year, guys. I don't think it should necessarily come just after February or in February. It should be up to you. But the beginning of the year is when I like to do it, and because January is quite a tough month, everyone's obviously waiting for wages. It's been Christmas, it's been New Year, and there's been a lot going on. A lot of people are too exhausted, so I never do it in January. I always do it in March. That's kind of my routine. So March generally usually has 4 main weeks in it. Sometimes it can cross over into a little bit of 5 depending on the year and how it's fallen. But 4 weeks, the 4 main weeks of March is how I break down my routine. So the very first week of March is the week where I declutter and get rid of the bric-a-brac in my house. So that's week 1. Week 2 is the cleansing, the smudging and the ritualistic removal of all negative energies, and there's various different things I do for that. Week 3 is the changing of the vibrational energy of my home and bringing in all the blessings and the entities and the energies I want to work with into the home, thus rebalancing all my home and my environment. And then week 4 is where I charge all of my wards and my ceremonial items, and I start to bring in all the ritual creatures and entities I want to work with in order for my home to be safe and secure. It's also the same week that I perform my final ritual, which kind of ties everything together and protects my home for an entire year. So let's jump into the video, shall we? So the first thing I want to say, is my routine is a full month long. You guys don't have to do that. You can just incorporate a few things that I'm going to show you in this video, so feel free to tweak it as you need. So as witches, we tend to be hoarders, or at least I know I am, guys. I'm a culprit of this. Now, I'm very house proud as well, so my home looks usually spick and span and really nice and tidy when you come into it. It's a really welcoming, nice space to be in. However, if you open cupboards, they're usually full to the brim of all the crap that I've accumulated throughout the entire year, to be honest. And I am a big culprit for that, because often at Christmas, which is the best time I find this happens to me, is I'll get gifted something and it'll come in a beautiful decorative box or some kind of a display item that I think, oh, I can use that for something. So I don't bin it, I keep it, and then I'll put it in a cupboard, and then sometimes I forget it's there, so then of course it just accumulates, and over the course of the year they can double and triple, and I end up sometimes with doubles of the same item. I've also done this with books before, where people have given me books and said, yeah, you'll like this, and I've gone to my bookcase and gone, oh, I've already got it, because I've not been aware that I've already got it, or perhaps I read it such a long time ago but then not really acknowledged that I have it anymore. So week 1 is definitely about getting rid of the crap and removing all the things that I don't need. And this isn't just magical things, guys, or things I might use for magic. This is everything in my home. So I will start from the top floor of my house, and my house is a 2-story building. So I go up to my first floor where all my bedrooms are, and I start with all the cupboards and my clothes and my personal belongings, so any jewellery as well. I go through everything, guys, and I start getting rid of things that I won't need. I try on all my clothes, make sure they fit me, make sure they're not damaged or ripped or torn in any way, and if they are, they go in a bin bag and they go straight to charity. Get rid of everything I don't need, make room for the new, and obviously clear out the old. I also look at all the personal items I have in there as well, because my bedroom for me tends to be where I harbour all the things that are gifted to me. So I have them on windowsills or on displays or picture frames with pictures of events that have happened to me in years that have passed. And I tend to look at those and go, do I want to change them up? Do I want a new picture in that frame? Do I even want to keep that frame anymore? Do I want to display that? Am I proud of that still? And you know, I go through all of that routine, and I do that in every single room in my house. I go through my library and get rid of books that I haven't enjoyed or that I haven't read, or even books I have read and then I've kept them, but then I've never touched them again. So then I think, well, what's the point in having them? So I get rid of them. So I declutter everything in my house. When I get to my craft space, which is an entire room dedicated in my house, I do also go through all of my ritual tools. Then I make myself 2 piles by the time I'm finished doing the entire house. Pile 1 is things that are not recyclable, that are completely damaged and destroyed or not reusable in any shape or form. And then I split them up to what can be recycled and what just needs to go to the tip, and then I get rid of them. Pile 2 is things that are still good, still usable, but I no longer want. So then I think, can any of this be used for ritual or magical practice? And if so, I put it in a pile. And if it can't, it goes in a pile to go to charity. Then I take all of the stuff to charity and get rid of it. So that leaves me with this final pile of things that possibly could be used magically for other people. So then what I do is I ritualistically cleanse off all those items. So to do this, I will use incense, or I might lay them on a bed of salt, or I might bury them in a special ritual pot that I have in my garden for a certain time. So I might do it for the whole moon phase or the whole month, and then dig them back up, give them a wash, and then gift them off to other people. But it does depend on what the item is. If it's jewellery, salt is really good for that, but obviously if it's a book, you're not going to want to bury it or put it in salt because it could become damaged in some way, so you might want to cleanse it off. I also do decording and separation rituals around that time, so that my energy and all the connections those items have to me are completely severed, so I know when I gift it away, I'm not giving somebody a piece of myself or something that they're trying to use ritualistically or as a magical tool that is actually connected to me. So my energies aren't going to interfere in their spells or their rituals or any of their magical spaces. So that's really important, guys. And there's several different things that you can do for that, but the most easiest one is to use incense to remove your energies. You can do, as I say, decording as well, or you can do some separation magic in order to make sure that you're completely separate from the item. If it's jewellery, it's really good to, like I said, bury it in some salt, and if it's anything like crystals or, you know, charms or amulets, again, burying it in salt is a really good one, guys. Or you can rest it on a bed of salt if you prefer. So once I've done all that, I then gift those away, or, you know, I kind of do it as a free-for-all. So I'll put it in a box and I'll say to people at my classes with my students and my seminars, where I'll say to people, you can go and help yourselves, guys, and that's all freebies and needs a new home, and whatever's left that wasn't wanted, I just deliver to charity, because again, none of those items are going to affect anybody when I give them to charity. They might not any longer be used as a magical tool. It might just be something someone likes and appreciates and puts in a cupboard somewhere to display. So I get rid of it all. So that's me decluttered and chaos free. Then the next thing I do is I move all the furniture out away from the walls, and I start going around all of my house, making sure there's nothing that's fallen behind cupboards or units that's become broken or damaged. And I remove all the bits and pieces, all the dust that's collected behind them, and I make sure that I'm completely free of all of that. The next thing I do is I cleanse and clean my house. So this is 2 steps, guys. So by this point, I'm now entering week 2. So week 1 is literally all about decluttering and removing crap, opening all your cupboards, going through everything, gifting things away, and making sure that you're free of things you no longer want or desire. And I say, good rule of thumb is if it doesn't spark joy, then get rid. I like Marie Kondo. I think she's very good. I use all her folds and techniques, guys. I think she's fantastic, and she's on YouTube if you want to watch her, and she's also on Netflix as well. But I do like her idea of if it doesn't spark joy, get rid, because it might spark joy for somebody else. And if you don't need it, you've not touched it, get rid. So you've done all that in week 1, you're starting to move into week 2. So this is when I start really looking at cleaning my house. And this is actually physical cleaning, guys. This is where I scrub my floors, I hoover my carpets, I wash all my curtains and my nets, and I do all the washing, I, you know, bleach all the surfaces, clean the toilet, I get into all the nooks and crannies in the house, things you don't normally do, move all the furniture away from the walls, clean behind it, make sure there's nothing underneath my sofa, like food or bits and pieces that's gone mouldy, make sure I haven't got any ant problems or anything like that, and I just get rid of it all. And during this process, I do a couple of things at the same time spiritually. So one of the things I like to do is I like to burn this incense. Now this is Dragon Blood incense, and it's my favourite brand, which I believe is Kamini. I think I'm saying that right. But you can buy this in bulk on eBay, and I tend to spend about £8 I think it is for a big box of these, and I use these all year round, so I buy a lot of this, guys. It's my favourite incense, and as the main ritual to finish my entire routine involves dragons, I like to use this to start bringing in their energies. So this is really good for protection. It's really good for removing negative energies, and it's really good as well for adding power and spiritual energy into your home. So it does a number of things, which is why I use it. So I do recommend that. So I'll give you a close up there, guys. Hope you can, yeah, you see that properly. The other thing I would recommend doing is using white sage incense if you don't have access to the dragon blood that I recommend. White sage incense, for obvious reasons. Sage is a really good cleanser. Evil can't stand its presence, and it cannot be used for evil purposes as well, so it's a ritual tool. If you don't have the incense to hand, like me, because I've started my routine, guys, and I've run out. So another option to consider instead of sage is frankincense. Now, frankincense is so underrated, guys. I love frankincense. It's a fantastic herb or, resin to use. It's something I use a lot in my craft and my ritual practices. So frankincense is used in exorcisms, so it's really good for removing evil, entities, or anything that's stuck to your space or clinging to you and your tools or your environment or your furniture. So for that reason, you can use this instead of the dragon's blood or instead of sage if you want to. And if you want to use the resin, the pure resin, which I should have brought it down to show you, to be honest, guys, but I forgot. You can buy it in resin format, and you can buy frankincense and you can buy myrrh. Now, if you mix these together, which is something I like to do, it does two things at once. So firstly, the frankincense, as I say, is an exorcism resin. So you can use that to remove all the negatives and get rid of all of the energies you don't want. And that frankincense is imbued with the energies of the sun, so it's masculine energy. And then to balance it, you use myrrh, which is feminine energy and uses the energies of the moon. And what the myrrh does, the myrrh brings in positive energies. It's a blessing herb, so by combining them together, they work really well as energies. I often burn them in conjunction with each other, and as you're removing the negative, you're also bringing in the positive. So there's great energies mixed in with that mixture, guys. And again, you can add to it, so you can add your own salts and your own herbs if you want. I often mix in a little bit of lavender and some sage at the same time, burn it on some charcoal, and smoke out your entire house. So I do this at the same time. The reason, first of all, that I use incense sticks is because I don't actually have to be present to use this. I can literally just light it and leave it in a room and walk away. I don't have to go around and do a routine with it. And at this stage, that's not what I'm about. This stage is about cleaning the house, not actually cleansing it, but this is the beginning of that. So I use the incense sticks to begin with. The next thing I do is, like I said, I'm cleaning the house. This is where I'm polishing, so I'm using special washes on my counters and my surfaces. I'm mixing salt into everything as well. So when I'm spraying my counters, I am spraying them with bleach sprays that, obviously, as we know, is really good for getting rid of any toxic energies, anything you don't want. It's a antibacterial item, so it's really good for removing things. Something else I like to do as well is squeeze lemon juice into hot soapy water and to wipe down all my surfaces. It makes things smell nice, and it's using some aromatherapy at the same time. Another thing I do is I have carpets and I have wooden floors in my home, so I do two things there. Overnight, what I'll do is I'll mix up a combination of salt, rosemary and lavender, and I will mix that all together, and I'll sprinkle that around all my carpets, all my floors, into all my rugs around my home, and I'll leave it overnight, and then I'll hoover it away the next day. Before I hoover it, I will tip the hoover upside down, and I will sprinkle some lemon essential oil on the bristles of the hoover. And as I'm hoovering, what that does is it imbues lemon into my carpets. Lemon is, as I say, really good for a detoxifier. It's really good for removing negative energies, and it's good for antibacterial problems as well. And it destroys and kills bugs and insects that you don't want in your home. So I often use that in conjunction, and as I hoover up all of the salt that I've left the night before, the salt has pulled out any negative energies that were trapped in the fibres of the carpets. The lavender has imbued really good energies of protection into it as well. And if you used sage, which is also an option, guys, sage is really good for removing negative energies, banishing evil, and stopping any entities clinging to your furniture. So there's a few combinations you can choose there. I've got laminate flooring as well. Well, it's actually LGT, I think it's called. It's special flooring. But the flooring I've got, it looks like wood, so therefore obviously you can mop it. So I make my own mop water. So it's not just simply, you know, bucket of water and I get going. What I do is I don't mix in any regular floor mop water, because, you know, you can get like these combinations of bleaches and floor washes that you buy in a supermarket, and I use that normally through the rest of the year. But when I'm doing this particular routine, I use my own magical ones instead. So what I do is I put a little bit of 4 Thieves vinegar in, and that's really good for removing evil and negative energies, and obviously banishing out people and entities that you don't want. So just a little bit, guys, because I don't really like the smell of vinegar, so I use a smidge, but feel free to use a whole bottle if you want, it's up to you. Again, I make my own 4 Thieves vinegar, and if you'd like me to do a video on that, guys, just leave me a comment below and I'm happy to do one for you and show you how I make it. But if you don't have your own, you can easily Google it. There's lots of sellers that sell it online as well, on Etsy, on eBay and on Amazon, so feel free to buy some. So a little bit of that. If you don't want to use 4 Thieves vinegar, you can add in lemon as well. As I say, lemon's really good for a multitude of different things, so I tend to put lemon in. I also mix in some salt and some sage at the same time. Then I'll mop through my floors, and then I will hoover as well to remove all the bits like the sage, for example, so that I'm not walking on it afterwards. And I do this in a routine. So I mop all my floors, sprinkle on my carpets, and then hoover the carpets the next day and the floors, getting rid of all the bits and pieces that I don't want. By this point, there's nothing left on my floors that's toxic or harmful. There's nothing in the air or environment because I've been using the incense, and there's nothing on the counters and the surfaces of all the units because I've bleached them and I've used lemon juice to remove anything from those as well. So the next step then is to obviously ritually smudge my environment, and there's a couple of ways to do this, and again I won't go into major detail because I'm aware that you guys have access to lots of videos, but I'll point out a couple of methods available. Now, my favourite method is to use sage. Sage is the spiritual bleach of the magical world. It doesn't just remove negative energies, it removes all energy. So anything that's positive, negative, or anything just unwanted, it gets rid of a lot, no matter what it is. Thus means that you can call in the energies that you do desire into your environment, which is usually my next step on week 3. So I'll go through and I will sage my entire house. And to use sage properly, guys, all you need to do is you light the ends of this and you blow it out, and it will create a smoke, and you can either waft it using your hand, or you can use a tool like this where you waft it into all the corners of the property. Now, sage is kind of really bad in the sense that once the smoke kind of runs out, you have to keep lighting it over and over, so you are going to need a dish like this that's fireproof so you don't burn your fingers or get injured, guys. One of the things I will say about sage is I get asked a lot if once you've lit it and used it once, do you have to bin it? And the answer is no, guys, do not bin this. You can use this over and over. Sage is self-cleansing because it's a cleansing tool, so you don't get rid of it. You keep it until it's basically formed to bits in your hands and no longer usable. And even then, I don't get rid of the bits, guys. What I do is when it gets to about here, so I've only got a little bit left and I really can't grip it and I can't light it on fire because I'll burn myself, I will put that in my mortar and pestle, grind it up so it's smaller pieces, and I will add it to charcoal, and I will cleanse my house using a charcoal disc smoke instead, using the rest of this. So I literally use the whole thing until it's completely gone. So as I say, it is a spiritual bleach, so if you're wanting to remove all energies in your home, it's really good for that, and I do use this for my yearly practice. I use it once a month as well to remove all negative energies, to make sure that what's left is what I want to work with, or I summon in all the energies I want to work with. So it's really good for when you're doing rituals, because it lets you know that when you've cast your circle and you've used this, there's nothing in it. So when you call in all the energies you do desire, that you know your circle is so pure and only the energies that you want are there, so nothing negative is going to affect your spell or your ritual. The other thing to consider is polysantos, so that's the polysantos. So this is sacred blessed wood that you can burn instead. I will say I prefer the smell of this, but as I know sage smells bad, to me, I know it's working. And when people often comment, go, oh, I can't stay here, that smells horrible, I go, that's because I've saged. So I know that sage does a good job, which is why I don't mind the smell. But if you particularly can't stand the smell, then use polysantos. It does smell a lot better, and use it exactly the same way. You light it on fire, blow out the flame, and you waft the smoke about. And again, feel free to use something like this if you want to, or just your hands. You can buy these made up online. I found them on eBay. Mine was actually made by my shaman mentor when I was a young student, so I was literally only about 16 years old when I was gifted this, so I've had it a long time. But you can make them yourself if you want to, or use some kind of large feather like an eagle feather or a swan feather or something. You can even paint them, decorate them, guys, and make them your own. So smudging is an option mixed with feather combination. If you don't want to use those, so the sage smudge stick or the polysantos, you can also make up your own blends and burn them on charcoal discs. So this is an option. Again, I don't do all of this in this week, guys. I pick one of the ones I want to work with and I work with it during that week. So I always sage. I've got to say, I do always sage no matter what, but if I feel the need, I'll go through with some of this, or I'll use the polysantos, but I always use the sage. That's just me, it's part of my routine, guys. But feel free to use something like this, and you can mix up your own blends. As I said before, I often use the leftover from a smudge stick and put it on this in a combination of salt and other resins and burn it. So that's a really good one as well, guys. If you're like me and you have super sensitive fire alarms and you're worried about setting them off, try something like this instead. This is a sage and lavender smudging spray, and these are super handy, guys, and they're so simple to use. You literally just take the lid off, give them a shake, and spray into your environment. And this is brilliant for spraying your furniture, your carpets, anything that's material, even your curtains and your clothes, and you can spray yourself. So if I'm in a rush and I'm doing a quick spell, I spray around myself and it sinks down onto myself and cleanses me off, ready for what I'm doing, so that I know there's no clinging energies that I don't want in my spell. So that's a really good one as well, guys. If you do have a really sensitive fire alarm, one of the things I do, not that I recommend this, but I do tend to turn mine off. I disconnect them for while I'm smudging or saging, and then when I've finished I reconnect them. Obviously that is a little bit dangerous, guys, so I do recommend that you ask permission to do that or really think about it, and if you are going to do it, remind yourself to turn them back on so that you don't forget that they've been switched off. My partner in particular is paranoid about that when I do it, so when I tell him I've started, he always makes sure to check at the end that I have turned them back on. Usually I do, but on the odd occasion I forgot, which is why, you know, I'm saying just ask permission, think about it, and if you're not comfortable doing that, you know, use this instead. Now, just to talk to you about some of the things that you can use on this if you don't want to make your own blend, you can use something like this. So there's a company that sells these locally to me, but I believe you can buy these online as well. And this one in particular is dedicated to Hecate, but you can buy ones for moon and cleansing and all sorts of different purposes. And these are really, really good. I've really enjoyed using these, and I use this one quite a bit actually. It's my third pot that I'm going through. Really good for rituals. You can sprinkle it into all sorts of things, like the water I mentioned for mopping all your floors. You could put it into the mixers for your carpets and then obviously hoover it up at a later date, or you can put it on the charcoal discs and burn it with the resins as well. So it's another way to incorporate really good energies into your home. So towards the end of this week and going into obviously thinking about changing the energies of my environment, I start to use something like this. So you can use either a white onion or a lemon for this. It does have to be white onion, guys, not any of the other varieties of onion. You slice it into 4 pieces and you get yourself some rice and a bowl, and you would place each of the 4 pieces on a bed of rice on a plate or a bowl and place them in the 4 corners of your house. Now, if you have a multi-story house, you might want to do this on each of the layers, but I have had great success with just doing it on the bottom layer and not the others, and it draws all of those last clinging remaining energies that you've perhaps missed. It's also really good for as an alarm system for identifying if there's an entity or a negative being in your home. What that will do is it will rot faster than it should do, and it'll tell you that there's something evil present that you need to remove, which means you need to go back to step 2 where you're removing things and redo that step, and maybe incorporate some exorcism as well into your ritual practice. But I generally do this because, one, it's an alarm system, so it does let me know if there's anything I've missed. The last thing it does, it obviously draws in the last remaining energies from the house, and as I'm not touching it, I'm leaving it to do it over the long period of time. I know then 100% that anything in my home that I didn't want has finally been drawn out. What the rice does, the rice isn't really magical, it's something mundane. Rice is really good for drawing out any energies in the environment that you no longer want. So things like damp or mold issues, it's really good for that. So if you have damp air in your home or you suffer with condensation in your home, rice is really good for helping remove that and removing that dampness in the air so that your home doesn't get any mold issues or any spores in it. So I often do this as part of my routine just in case. Now I don't have a problem in my home, but it's part of my routine, so I don't change it. And if you do have a mold problem, as I say, rice is really good for that. So place some rice in a bowl next to where the mold or damp problem is. It draws out the moisture and obviously it starves the mold and it dries up and then dissipates over time, and you can then wash off the wall. There are different techniques for that, so really research it, guys, because you can damage your walls, so just be careful. But the rice is really good for that. So I put this on a bed of rice, cut into 4 pieces and place it in the home, and it just makes sure that I've gotten everything. Another last thing I do as part of my routine is I use my broom. So this is my broom, guys. It was a gift from some friends and I absolutely love my broom. I've used it for a very long time. And how I use my broom is I've got a very specific routine that I like to follow. It is a pagan routine and I've been doing it for such a long time that it's just part of my routine now, to be honest, guys. The belief is you go from your front door and you follow your entire house going right, so you follow the right wall in your home. So what I do is I follow the right wall of my home. I'm sweeping every area of my room, so sweeping all the energy out like that, and I'm sweeping it around the house and aiming to head towards my back door, but I follow the right hand wall of every room. So as I do this, in my room it would travel out, push out from my living room and my dining room, which is one open space. Then I would go up the stairs and follow it round, which would take me to my very last back bedroom, and I would follow that round, and by this point I'm starting to connect now to the left hand wall, so it's starting to convert into my right. So then I follow it all the way around, which will take me to my library, my bedroom, back down the stairs, to my kitchen, which is the last room in my house, and out through the back door. As I'm doing this, I have various chants that I like to do. It doesn't have to be complicated, guys, it's up to you. I have 3 or 4 chants and I pick one on the day I'm doing it, and I just go with the one I'm attracted to at the time. But it can be something simple as sweep, sweep, sweep the ground, let all negative energy be bound. And you're sweeping it out and remove it. Or you could just say something like, negative energy may not stay, I sweep it all away. Nice and simple, guys. It doesn't have to be amazing. And you just chant that as you're using your broom to sweep out all of the energy. So it's kind of up to you, but that's what I like to do personally. And then this takes me now into week 3. So week 3 is where we're working on bringing in positive energies to your environment and starting to restabilize all the energies and of course change the vibrational energy of your home. So at this stage, there's a couple of things I do. So we've already started to incorporate dragons with this here at week 1. So what I do is I like to incorporate some other entities that I work with. So one of the other entities I work with is the Fae. So I will open up the kitchen window nor in my house. So it just has to be one window in your house, guys. I'll leave an offering to the Fae and I will welcome them in and ask them to come and bless my home, remove anything that shouldn't be here, and to also, you know, welcome them into my space, to work with them, build upon that relationship I already have with them. To leave them offerings, it can be something as simple as a little thimble of milk, honey. You can leave them cheese, you can leave them biscuits, or you can leave them sugar. So it's completely up to you, guys. Milk and honey are my favourites to leave them. They seem to really appreciate that. And I also leave those offerings out in the garden, sprinkling them around the flowers and in the flower beds for them to nibble on. And it's a good way to ask them to come in and protect your environment, look after your garden, and bless the growth of your plants and spells as well. So I do that at that point. The next thing I do is I go around my home and I place selenite in various locations. So for those of you who don't know, selenite is a crystal that's self-cleansing and it's really good for cleansing an environment at the same time and blessing energies in it. So what I do is I place various obelisks like this around my home, and I have a number of these in my home in various shapes and sizes. I even have one that's a tea light holder as well. And I place them in the home and I charge these with positive energies and tell the crystals and programming it what I want it to do. And at the same time, because this is connected to angels, I start to bring in my angel colleagues as well. So all the angels that I've worked with over the years, all the relationships I've built up, I start to call upon them here. So at this point, I already have dragons, fairies and angels coming into my home and helping me with this process. So as you can see, I'm layering the magic and doing multiple things at once, guys. So I place these around the home, and then these are really good, as I say, for changing the vibrational energies of my environment. Something else you can do as well, these often flake, so you can take some chippings off it and you can use them in charms around your home as well. You can place them in flower beds or sprinkle them around flowers that you have in your home. So I have a lot of cacti, I have an aloe vera, I have a snake plant around my home, and I sprinkle crystals and herbs in those as well. Another thing I do as well is I have crystals all around my home at this point, so I collect them all together, place them near a main selenite, so usually one I've just shown you there, and cleanse off those big crystals that were around my home, and then I charge them in moonlight or sunlight and then replace them back around my home, charging them with energies to bless my home, bring in positive energies, and of course vibrational energies of peace, love and harmony to my home as well. So that's another step I do. The next thing I'm looking at is cleansing myself as well, because at this point my home is almost completely clear, but I'm not. So the next thing I would recommend is something like this. So this is my salt mixture, which has some special herbal blends of my own design in it, and I bathe in this, so I have a ritualistic bath. If you don't have a bath, guys, you can use a shower, that's fine. And one of the things I would recommend is maybe something like that, so you can spray the tiles in your shower, and as you have hot water from your shower, the steam will obviously take this off the walls and steam your skin, imbuing it in your very being and cleansing you off. You can use lavender essential oil as well. Lavender essential oil is non-toxic and completely safe, even to use on children and babies. It doesn't have anything bad to it at all. You don't even have to dilute it if you don't want to. But if you do want to dilute it, you can dilute it in any base oil you like, but olive oil is my favourite. Olive oil is kind of like the neutral of the oil world, so as you can use white candles to replace any other colour candle in a ritual, you can use olive oil as a base to replace any other major oil in a ritual working as well. So that's usually my go-to when I'm mixing up my own oils and my own blends for when I'm doing spells. So I've got a lot of olive oil in the house, so I'll mix olive oil with lavender, I'll splash it on the tiles, or I will directly apply it to my body, usually all my chakra points, and then I will use the water from the shower to steam it off me, thus in my head symbolically removing all the negative energies from my being, from my aura and in my body. But you can also use, as I say, a salt mix and have a bath. You can also add in some rose petals to your bath if you want to. Rose petals are really good for self-love, self-worth, and obviously giving you loving, nice energies as well. So that's another option, guys. Once all that is done, I start to look at the sound in my environment. Now, sound is a really good cleanser, guys, and there's, again, a number of techniques to do this, and I'll show you some of the tools I have, but I don't use all of these at the same time. I tend to pick one and go with the one I feel at the time. So one of my favourite ones is this one. This is my Shaman Rattle. Now you can buy these or have them made online. There's various different sellers on Etsy that will make them for you. My mentor made this for me and sent it to me as a Christmas present, so I absolutely love this. This is made out of hawthorn, and hawthorn's really good for exorcism, removing of the negative and protection. And all the feathers on it are from birds for protection purposes as well. And the beads inside it are dried herbs, and then this was made out of roe deer skin. Again, all naturally sourced, nothing was killed or murdered to make this item, because my shaman mentor is all about, you know, the animals and the environment and nature. So he's a big nature lover, so I know this was made properly and, you know, respectfully to the environment. And then all I do with this is I'll go around the home doing that. I've got some shaman chants that match it, and I will change the vibrational energy of my home by doing this. One of the beliefs that I took from when I did Feng Shui is that in your home you have a lot of square shapes to it. So, you know, here in the UK our houses tend to be quite square or rectangular, which means they have a lot of corners, and corners are sharp. And because of that, energy can get trapped, and then when it gets trapped it starts to die off and become stagnant and stale, and it's something that you don't want in your environment. So you take this into the corners and you would rattle it like that, which shakes up the energy and moves it out of that space, making it shift. Any dead energy, the sound is supposed to neutralise and get rid of it. If you don't have a rattle, you can also use wind chimes for this as well, or you can place a plant or a piece of furniture or a crystal in that corner. And again, what that will do is that it will bounce the energy away, creating this curve to it instead of a trapped corner, stopping energy from becoming stagnant. Now, I've done that in most areas of my house, but some areas it's just not possible, so therefore I have my rattle, and I go around and rattle up and shake up the energies in those corners, removing those negative energies. Other options, instead of using a rattle, would be a ritualistic bell. So this is mine. It's made out of glass, and I got it from Cat's Protection for 50p. I'll go around with the bell and I will shake it a few times in a corner to shake up the energies. And another option is using something like this. So this is one of my singing bowls in my collection. I do have a better singing bowl that I do like to use when I'm doing this, which is my frosted quartz singing bowl that's attuned to the heart chakra specifically. So it's really good for when I work in my environment and imbue it with energies that I require, and obviously vibrationally charge my environment as well. But for the purposes of the video, I'll just show you this one. So naturally you would ding in all of the corners, and in each room you would catch the sound and vibrationally charge your environment like so. So that's just one of the options available to you as well, guys. Once I've done all of this and I've got to the point where I'm now touching on week 4 and I know my environment is cleansed, I know I've removed anything negative, I know I've ritually cleansed and blessed myself, and I know I've vibrationally charged my environment, I start to pull in all the things in my home which symbolically protect my space. So this is all my sigils, all my wards, all my crystals that have protection purposes around my home. I collect them all to me and I recharge and respell them with all the right energies, and I might do this over the course of a full moon cycle. So again, this is why I do it over a month. So wherever the full moon falls, I remember to do this, collect everything up and do it over the full moon, and then the next day I place them all back in their zones and tell them what they're doing and release that energy. And that energy should last me for a full year. I also tag that usually to the moon, so as the cycles wane and grow, the full moon can recharge them in its light over and over, but obviously you do have to respell them, which is why I collect them together. And then I come to my final ritual, which is where I do my dragon ritual, which is the last step in all of what I've discussed with you. So if you'd like to do the dragon ritual that I use, it's located in Dancing with Dragons by DJ Conway. I do have another video which I will link below on dragon magic, and dragon magic is, well, it's excellent for anything, to be honest, guys, but dragon magic is one of the biggest parts of my path, and the ritual that's located in the Dancing with Dragons book by DJ Conway is an excellent book to get. It's something that I talk about in my dragon magic book ritual video, so it's worth having a look at that so you can see what it looks like and get one for yourself. But the ritual in that, as I say, it's really good for incorporating dragons. You do step by step following this ritual practice. There's certain things and tools you have to have, but most of it is the 4 elements and running through your house from the front door to the back door, pushing all the energies out through the back, and then you welcome new energies through the front, and then you protect your home using dragon magic. Some of the other things that I would suggest as well is incorporating things like gargoyles. You can place gargoyles or stone statues in your garden and you can enchant them, bless them. You can even put servitors or entities inside them that you work with, or ask for gargoyles to actually take on the form of that item and protect your home. So there's lots of different energies you can incorporate, guys. So go with what feels right to you. As I say, at this point, I've already talked to you about incorporating angels, fairies, dragons. So there's a lot of entities and energies that I've incorporated. I haven't by any means told you everything that I incorporate, and that's on purpose, guys. There are a lot of different practitioners out there, and some of them obviously aren't as nice as me, and some of them do try to cause trouble. So for that reason, I haven't told you everything in my routine. I always change up my routine as well. So as I say, I have week 1, 2, 3 and 4, and I have various steps on each week that I could perform, and I pick them based on the year I've had and what I want to incorporate and what I know the year ahead is going to be like. And I often do divination to help me with that as well. So I do recommend doing that, guys, looking at all of those different techniques that I've described, thinking about what you want for your personal craft and what you think you'll use on a regular basis. And a lot of what I've mentioned to you here, you can use at any point in the year, but this is just my routine to really get my year going and know that my house is like a fortress and it's safe and protected. So it is worth it, guys. Other things I will say as well as a good point is, with the onion and lemon technique, you can do that all year round. Lemon is really good for including in all your washes and your ritual practice. It's a really good item to have. You can also keep the peel. So I myself, I can't really work with orange. I have an allergic reaction to a specific acid that's inside oranges, but I'm fine with lemons. So I use lemon peels instead of oranges whenever I see spells that call for it. So again, adapting your magic, guys, to you and your personal craft and your space. Another thing to consider is obviously any black crystals usually are really good for protection spells and magic, so you can place them on the windowsills around your home. You can also create a witch's bottle, and again there's a video for that, guys, so if you want I'll link that below and watch that video, and that's really good for incorporating battle magic and a really powerful ward to your house. So once that's done, you don't have to renew it. It's something that you can just leave because it's been spelled, so, and you hide that on your property. Another one is you can place rosemary by your front door, and that wards against thieves and intruders. And you can also use sigil magic around your home as well for lots of different purposes. And again, I have a video on that, guys, so I'll link that below. And if you want to give that a watch as well, that'll give you loads of ideas and tips and tricks for incorporating sigils into your magic. And all of these things are things that I use all year round, but specifically in this month is when I gather them all together, recharge them, go through my space and wipe the deck clean and bring in all the energies I want. And that's it, guys, that's all I've got for you. So I really hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope that I've talk to you about some new things that maybe you didn't know about. And if you do have any questions, please put them in the comments below. If you like the video, give me that thumbs up, click the bell button, because YouTube is terrible at telling you when my videos come out. For those of you who are new to my channel, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you'll subscribe and watch further videos. And just to let you know, I post every single Friday of the year, so they always go live around 5 o'clock, so if you'd like to watch on the weekends, then please do so. If you don't know, in the description of every video, I always put my social media links as well. So if you'd like to follow me on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, all of my business pages are on there. And in particular, Instagram is a good one to follow, guys. That gives you insights and tips and tricks into all my magic, so it shows you my altars, my rituals, my spells, and my client workings as well, so it's worth following me on that. And I am a member of Patreon, so if you'd like to support my humble channel and my growing business, then you can do so through Patreon. And if you'd like to book my services through Patreon, I offer it much cheaper to you, my YouTube tribe, than anyone else, so it's worth booking it on there instead of any of the other services or business pages I have, guys. So thank you very much, and as always, blessed be, and I'll see you very soon. Be good to each other. Bye for now.